Good morning and welcome to Daily Devotions with Pastor Joe. I'm Pastor Joe, and I'd like to continue our reading this morning from the Beatitudes. This is the third Beatitude. It says in Matthew 5, verse 5, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." And this is one of the Beatitudes that perhaps a lot of people don't care to live up to. In fact, in our day and age, meek is anything but the current status quo of people's lives. Meekness in the Bible didn't necessarily talk about or mean a weakness or a inability to stand up for oneself, but it is talking about being humble, being lowly, being quiet, being gentle. Meekness handles a lot of those different types of ways of being. And who wouldn't love to see a lot more people in our day and age, whether just our friends and neighbors around us, our family, or our politicians, be more meek, have more humility, have a better understanding of exactly who they are, instead of thinking so much of themselves, to understand themselves the way God does. And that's where I see meekness and humility, is to understand yourself the way God understands you, to see yourself the way God sees you. You know, for some people that might be quite a bit. But when they see themselves as that, they understand that, even though they're so great and they're so much, it's because God has done so much for them and has made them the way they are. So blessed, or how very, very happy, ecstatic, excited, full of life, full of energy, full of excitement, how blessed and happy is the person who understands the value of their own life, who understands how good they are, how great they are, and what they're actually worth, and yet how lowly they are. So maybe even it's calling back to the earlier phrases once again. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are they that mourn. Blessed are they that are meek, that understand what they really deserve and where they are in life. And so to be meek means to be gentle, means to be kind, it means to be quiet-spirited. I know for myself, I've always been kind of a backward kid, and so being quiet isn't necessarily difficult for me, but being quiet about everything that I need to be quiet about, sometimes that is difficult. Sometimes it's hard for me to be quiet about some things, or to just keep to myself whenever it's not my place to speak up. Not always, not often, but for me it can be occasionally a difficult thing. And I'm sure several of you out there, and most of the people in the world, in fact, deal with having the opposite of meekness, having a problem of speaking out when it's not really your turn or your time or your place to speak. And so instead of keeping yourself where you belong, and saying, that's not my business, I'm going to stand back from it and let things be, sometimes we meddle in things that we shouldn't. And so, it's not very, very wise. It's not very good for us to do that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong either. There are times where we can step into other people's business and need to, because there are times where we shouldn't say, it's not my business. In fact, quite often it's that way. But the people who are meek, it doesn't mean that they're weak. Just being a meek Christian doesn't mean that you're a weak Christian. It means that you know your boundaries and you know where you should be, where you shouldn't be, and you respect that. So stand up for yourself when you need to. Stand up for others when they need you to. But stand down when it doesn't matter. Makes sense? So a lot of people will struggle with the idea of standing up for yourself and saying that, they made fun of me, they picked on me, they hurt my feelings, I need to stand up for myself and say something or do something. And that's not always the case. In fact, it's very often that it's not the case, and we could just let it go, forget about it, and be okay with life, and life goes on. But too often people don't do that. People really don't do that. And so be meek, be humble. Humble yourself before God, and humble yourself before your fellow man. You might not be all that you think you are. And I'm not all that I used to think that I was either, and I never have been all that I used to think I was. And that's a lot of stories for other days. I'm sure you'll hear them down the road. But be meek, be humble. So today, if you find yourself in a place where you need to step back into the shadows a bit, or if you find a place where you need to step up and do something that you ought to do, either one, that's really what this is talking about. And what does it mean? It means you'll inherit the earth. It means that things will go better for you on this earth. For one thing, that's the way I've always looked at it. It means that if you are meek, and if you live in a meek-mannered fashion, then everything in life will go a lot better for you. Everything in life will go a lot smoother for you. At least I've seen that true time and again. I believe it applies here. And you will inherit earth. Doesn't sound as good as the kingdom of heaven, does it? But really, when you think about it, John saw a new heaven and a new earth coming down from God out of heaven. He saw the new city coming down from God out of heaven on the new heaven and the new earth. And so the new city, the city of Jerusalem, is going to be on that new earth. I think I'm okay inheriting a piece of that earth. So God bless and have a great day. May you find yourself in a place where you can say that you're living for God the way you ought to live for Him today. Have a great day in the Lord. God bless.